Hello everyone. In this video we are going to start with arrays and ArrayList. We already know about arrays, so we will have a small recap on it. Arrays have major three components: index, string and address. We know these indexes are used to call the strings and the characters within the arrays. We will see more about it while solving examples. We know that these arrays are multi-dimensional arrays, so let us see about two-dimensional array with an example of a matrix. Let us begin with index, as it is the key to call the elements inside the matrix. So naming the index from 0 to 4 in row wise and also in column wise, and later we are going to enter the values. These values will be named as in a variable called matrix. Now for calling the number 13, we need I and j values. As it is a 2D matrix, we will be calling matrix I, j and I value as 2 and j value as 4. Consider an example on temperature monitoring system. On temperature monitoring system, we will be collecting the temperatures on each and every day with respective months. If we require to collect the data, we can use a single dimensional array and we can collect the data with using indexes. So this is an example for arrays. We have reached our next topic, ArrayList. ArrayLists are dynamic data structures that can grow or shrink in size based on the number of elements. They are better than arrays because they provide additional functionality and flexibility. We will see that in detail after a small demonstration on ArrayList. Just consider a 5-elemental array. If we want to add up a new element to it, we need to completely resize the array. But in ArrayList, just calling by variable.add and the integer, it will be creating a new space for it. This is called ArrayList. Now let us get started with Java. I have already explained how to create a new file in IntelliJ. If you missed that, I will tag in the I button. Please watch it. Now we will be starting with arrays. We can see that the main class has been created and the name has been same. So public class main is a main class for us to run the main code. It's a driver program. Already existing the hello world program is there. Now we have to write for arrays. Let's begin with array code. Now we have to create a local variable for using integers because we will be doing the problem with numericals. Naming the local variable as numbers and passing the numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the numbers will be stored inside the variable number. Using sout, let us try to print, but it's showing an warning because it is in arrays, so we want to convert it into string and we want to print the values. Now the values will be printed in a stringed list. We can see that it's in a list format as it is arrays called from package. The package name is Java Util Arrays. This package will provide us a function called toString. So the arrays will be converted to string and formatted to list. So we can see the complete output 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if we want to call a unique value, like we want to index numbers and we need a represented value, means we need to call using indexes. If we want to see the element 3, we need to call an index of 2 because the arrays will be starting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, the element will be 3 will be printed now. Let us add a new line so it shows the good visibility between the two print statements. Now let's run the code. Yeah, you can see here now the output is 3. We got the element and this is arrays. Next let us see array with two-dimensional. This is a single dimensional array. We already discussed about this. In two-dimensional array we know about the matrix, but on next example we won't see with matrix, we will be seeing with string. Without creating a new file, let us try to do in this itself. Now let us start with two-dimensional. In this two-dimensional, we will be using scanners to get input from the users. So we need to initialize the scanner. For this, we will be required a package called scanner from utils. Using this scanner, we could collect the data from the user. The rows and columns can be calculated through that. We can do this code without using scanners also, as we done in arrays part 1. In that example, we saw that we initialized the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but here we will be collecting the data from the user. Using these rows and columns given by the user, we will be creating the size of an array. These rows and columns will decide the size of the array to be generated dynamically. Now this is the rows and columns code to get from user. The next step is to assign these rows and columns to a string array. Now we want to create a string. The string must be having seats. It's a name variable. Here we have used 2 box brackets for 2 dimensions, and rows and columns will be assigned to it. Then we want to use a loop to collect the data from the user. Mostly everyone will be using for loop, because for arrays the for loop is the best way to collect the data or to store the data. Using while loop or any other loop also we can do, but we will be using for loop. Using this for loop, we will be initializing 2 variables, I and j. I is represented for one dimension and j is represented for the another dimension. Using these both I and j, the user data provided will be stored inside the variables. Now we will be calling the seats using a scanner to get the data from the user. Till now we wrote the code for getting the user data. Next we want to write the code for printing the values. The code used for getting the user data is same code for printing, but there will be small minor changes. As we collected the I and j values, we can remove this scanner, and now we want to add the stored data to be printed. So in print statement we want to add the seats value at the end, so we can see the name of the seats which user has been given. After running the code, we will be entering the number of seats, rows, everything, and the details will be entered here. Now you could see on row 1 and row 2, row 3, everything will be initialized. With respect to column, the data will be stored. As we saw in the matrix, the numbers will be stored. Here you could see, now you can see the output printed. On the last line, we can see that only tank has been printed, U has been missed. This is because we used the next value. The next value used in a scanner, that is a cause for this. Now if we have used next line to the scanners, it may solve the problem, but the values may not store properly. In the array 1, 1, there will be a new line generated, so it will be skipping the values and storing the next upcoming values. This will cause a problem using next line in arrays. So we will be using ArrayList on the next example, and we can resolve this issue.
I must not lose my resolve. I will march forward, even if I have to do so alone.
In arrays also we can solve this issue using proper conditions with next line, but we can do better with ArrayList. So let's try with ArrayList and see the benefits of ArrayList with comparison to these arrays. Let's start the ArrayList with a simple example, then we will go with this example. Initially, in ArrayList also we need to create a local variable by calling the package of ArrayList, and in this we can have an advantage of using objects. Objects means which we can use any type of classes like strings, booleans, integers, everything. Here we will be naming the ArrayList as list1 and creating a variable for it. Now using this list one, we can add up as much as elements we need without using any provisionary indexes for that, because these array lists are dynamically generated and they can dynamically add the spaces if they needed 50% above. Now adding an integer and string, then let's go with booleans. Next we'll use a float or double value. For printing this, we will be using for loop, where we will be using objects to call the elements, because we used here as an object in array list. We can use the element as a variable for the object, and using these elements we can print all the variables data stored in the array list. This is much simpler than arrays, as we don't need to give any data type or any size of the array. It will be dynamically generated, and it is easy to use. Using get class, we can call the elemental data type of the object. Now let's run the code. You can see that the code has printed as the element's name from the list generated and its class type. All the 4 types can be accessed through the single object. This is an advantage of using ArrayList as compared to arrays. Now let us see the example which we caused the problem with arrays and solve the problem in easier way. Let us clear this all. Here also we will be using scanners to collect the data from the user, as same repeated from the previous array. Next we have to initialize array list with strings, because we will be dealing with string elements. So I can use the list with strings. Now we have to create a scanner to collect the data for each and every individuals, because it's dynamically generated. We don't need to give any space or rows and columns. It's being collected using string line, and for each and every new line it will be cancelling the program, so that we need to initialize a while loop. Each and every line should be read, and if it meets a new line, it should be deleted. So when it is empty, till the line is empty, the while loop will be running. Using function add, we need to add the names into the array list. The name stored in the string will be added to the array string names. If it meets the next line, the while loop will be stopped. After reading the values, we need to print the values. So using the for statement, we can print the values in the array list. Here we will be mentioning the array.size, that means the names is the arrays or array list, so array.size will be mentioned here, and the loop is iterated forward. And the same print statement can be printed with using ArrayList.get, that means ArrayList is names, so names.get, and the index of the array I will be passed there, so we will be getting each and every names. The I plus 1 is mentioned here. It does not represent the next value. It is saying that the array will be mentioning starting from the 0. Even the array list also starts from 0. So I plus 1 is the value of first element. Now you can see the output. It asks for a string line. Hello from Now you can see the output. The complete line has been took till it ends with a new line. The code is running. That's it for the today's video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you might have understood about arrays and ArrayList. And stay tuned for the next 3 days for the new video or linked list.